Hello and welcome to Stand Out. We're going to call it Stand Out. Stand Out, the Elite Prep College Admissions Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Vande Brake. I'm here with my friend, coworker, and college admissions and specifically kind of UC admissions specialist, Cheny Ng. Cheny, am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Yeah, but nobody who speaks English can pronounce it it's Chinese.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So it's like,
So that's like valiant effort. I just
yeah.
say ing.
Okay, Ing. So when you're making a reservation at a restaurant or something, you're like, you just, yeah.
Well, that's
Jenny.
like I'm Jenny Smith.
Well, yeah, I guess that's, yeah. Nobody
But
understands.
yeah, if I have to give him a fake name.
Yep, yep.
Well,
Even,
yeah.
even Van de Brake is kind of tough for some people, so
It's
I'll
very
say
Dutch.
I'll say Baker. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Jason Baker. Okay.
That's my wife's maiden name, so it's so easy. Everybody can spell that. All right. Well, all that aside, names aside, Cheny, today we're going to be talking about 7 mistakes that admissions officers see over and over again on the UC personal insight questions, and more importantly, how students can avoid these mistakes. So let's say that someone listening, probably a college-bound student or the parent of a college-bound student, maybe they don't know at all what the UC personal insight questions are. I think everybody's familiar with like a college essay. So how do the personal insight questions compare to a college essay? Talk a little about what the PIQs are all about.
Well, so the UC PIQs are for the University of California application, which is one unified application. They have their own system. It's not Common App. I think all California students will know this, but they have their own 4 application essays. So they give you 8 prompts. You choose 4 of the 8, and then they're 350 words each, and that comprises your essay supplement section of the UC application. So it's a little different than like Common App because you don't have one longer personal statement that goes to all schools and then a school by school supplement that's different by college. It's just 4 essays of equal length, and then you can choose 4 of the 8 topics.
So how does a 350 word essay, that's, I mean, compared to, the Common App personal statement, what's the word limit on the Common App personal statement?
That one's 650, so about half.
Okay, yeah. So, considerably shorter. Yeah. So there's 8 personal insight questions, which we'll just call PIQs maybe from now on because
Yeah.
personal insight questions is a mouthful. And students need to choose 4 of them. All right. So question number 1, which 4 should they choose?
Oh, okay. I definitely have an answer to that. No, I think it's interesting because it's kind of one of those situations where the prompt chooses them most of the time. Like when people say their pet chose them or whatever, it's like the ones that you can answer usually stand out to you. Right. So like students will look through the 8 and there will be generally 2 or 3 that they feel like they can answer, usually based on activities or just their circumstances. And then the one that you might kind of want to play with in the last prompt, they might not always know, and might want to make a suggestion is usually like the 3rd or 4th one.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, the ones you can answer are usually the ones that you should like naturally go with. And then maybe with essay 3 or 4, you can kind of play with if there are
Mhm.
any like less obvious ideas you could go with.
So, it's not a, yeah, yes, just start off answering numbers, 1, 5, and 8, or 1, 5, 7, and 8, because those are the best ones. It's sort of, they're all good for different situations and different students.
Yeah, none of them are more preferred over the other ones. I think number 8, which is kind of more of a wild card essay, that one's more difficult to answer, so I don't always recommend that one. And students don't always pick that one, but yeah, there is like a choose your own adventure kind of number 8.
So you help students at Elite Prep with uh, college essays, college applications, UC, Common App, everything. How you probably don't, maybe you don't have a number, but take a stab at how many UC essays do you think you've read, like over the years that students have written?
Hundreds,
Yeah,
I would say.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this since I was in college. I'm not going to say I was like an expert at the time, but it's the years have the
yeah,
years have
yeah.
passed by, and there's been a lot of
Right.
years
So,
now.
so you're familiar with these things, and you've read a lot of drafts and helped students revise a lot of drafts and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I've been doing college admission stuff since 2011 when I graduated college, but the new 4 UC PIQ system was established 2016. So since then, it's been 10 years already of doing the same
Wow,
kind of
we're
thing.
already a decade into the PIQs. It feels like it
Yeah.
was just yesterday, but they've been around
There
for a
must be
while.
something about it that the UC's like that I find useful because it hasn't changed.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, before we get into our seven mistakes, what do you think? What would you say is the biggest misconception students have about the UC personal insight questions?
I mean, it's mostly misconceptions.
It's generally their understanding of it is just a big misconception.
I'm not sure. There's like different areas. Sometimes people think essays count for more than they do, and sometimes they think that they count for less than they do. So it kind of just like varies. But I would say for UCs, the GPA and academic profile history counts for a lot more than the essays.
Hmm.
So that's going to be the first thing that they look at. And that's going to be one of the biggest filters for, a yes versus a no versus a maybe. And essays really matter more if they have a lot of really similar students in one group and then they only have limited spots.
Hmm.
So it's kind of just one of those things where it helps to distinguish between students who are similar, or if they're trying to fill certain departments. And also, every UC kind of has a different style of doing things, right? Like we always find that UCLA is more of a GPA focused school.
Mm.
So even if you have amazing essays, if your profile is not that great, it's not going to really help. Versus UC Berkeley, my alma mater, they routinely every year waitlist or end up admitting students that might have maybe not as strong of a GPA, but might have a good story. So essays might matter more for that school.
Good to know. Okay, that's interesting. Great. Um, okay, let's get into our mistakes here. So, when you are helping, students with their first drafts and revisions and coming up with topics and everything having to do with the UC PIQs, what is the first mistake that you commonly see?
Well, okay, I want to start by saying there's no like hard and fast rules, right? There's not going to be a formula that works every single time. And there's always exceptions as well, right? You're going to have students who say, oh, I wrote about that, but that worked for me. Like I got in, or my sister got in, or my cousin got in and they wrote about that. So, it's not admissions, it changes every season, every year also. So, that being said, these are just things that I try to steer students away from usually when I
Hmm.
encounter them.
Hmm.
So I guess we can go into number one.
Yes, let's
Number
hear
one
it.
on my list, the first mistake I would say is writing about sports.
Aha. Okay. Now, now why is this? A lot of students play sports. A lot of students, and it's a big part of their lives. It's an important part of their lives. What's the danger in writing about sports?
Okay, so if a student, like mostly, that's a big part of their extracurriculars, then probably they might have to write about it. My mistake mostly centers around writing about sports through certain narratives, right? So the narrative of like it was the last quarter and we needed one more shot to make the basket. Or, sorry, I'm not very athletic, so I don't really know. But, the buzzer's about to go off and I
Yes,
looked
yes.
across at my teammates and I wasn't sure, could we do it? Like those kind of things are common. Or the dynamic of like, we lost a match and everybody was discouraged. Things that are centered around games, winning
Hmm.
or losing, in-game dynamics, those things take up a lot of space to explain because it's a lot of like exposition. But there's not a lot of that that's relevant to colleges, right?
Hmm.
Right. One
Hmm.
basketball game, one soccer game, how is that going to translate to 4 years at an academic institution? Usually it's not. So if there's students that need to write about sports, and there's going to be, and some of them have done like amazing things.
Sure.
So they
Yep.
need to really focus more on like values that could be carried over into an
Okay.
academic space
Got it.
rather than
Okay.
talking about that one moment that might be the most like special moment of their lives. I'm sure
Right.
it was very special, but it's not going to be something that translates, I think, in this kind of
Yeah.
essay.
So maybe it seems like there's a lot of drama there. It seems like maybe a easy way to engage the reader, but if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying you're not getting the the content across like efficiently. I mean, because you only have 350 words, and also, I mean, it also sounds like it might be a little bit cliche, yeah, which is to say, a lot of students write about it, and whether they want to or not, your admissions reader might look at that and say, "Oh boy, okay, another sports thing. All right, here we go." I've this is the 16th one I've read in the 2 hours, and yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, I live a sports story as much as probably not as much as the next person. I don't love a sports story actually, but
Yes. Right.
but I like Remember the Titans. I love that movie. I grew up with it, and
Okay.
that's a sports movie. But
Yeah.
when I think about that movie, I don't think about which team won or which team lost, and like the last moment of that game specifically. I think about a story of allyship, right, in a very difficult space.
Mm.
Right, two communities coming together, like friendship. You can focus on things like that. It's just not, we're not really remembering the game as part of
Yes.
what is like historically interesting.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Well, man, I feel I have so many questions about this, but I'm sure we can get to them when we're talking about these other mistakes as well. So let's give us number two. What's your number two thing to avoid on the UC admissions essays?
Number two is kind of similar to number one. It's also a don't. I would say writing about music can be very difficult. I work with a lot of specifically Asian American demographic, East Asian, South Asian, Southeast Asian, or mixed students, or students in Southern and Northern California. California has a lot of Asian American students, and most of them grow up with some kind of music enrichment, right? So not only is it very common, I think that there's a few similar narratives with music. Right. So a lot of times it's parentally imposed. And so it's like their parents forced them to do it from a young age. And so they've done it since like second grade up until senior year, but they don't really know what it means to them because it was never like theirs.
Ah, not their
Right.
choice.
They might like it. A lot of them
Mhm.
end up liking it. They enjoy having a skill, but is it going to be something that's central to their lives moving forward?
Mhm.
Oftentimes not. Um, or if they're writing about it, what can they write about? Like, what do you actually do when you do music? A lot of times you're just practicing, you're doing things over and over again, you're learning how to read music. Or it's going to be that performance story, which is similar to like winning or losing, where you're in a high stakes situation.
Get,
You
get
need to
in the
perform.
zone, and yeah, just right, just connect with the
Yeah.
music and get out of your head, and yeah, right.
It's like a succeed or fail situation. But so many essays kind of center around that. Am I going to succeed or am I going to fail? Am I going to learn something? It's just kind of a common trope. So, again, I think you can write about music. I think music is definitely like so interesting actually as a field. It's very diverse. But I think that a lot of my students who do engage in music, it's actually not very diverse, the kinds of things that they do. So maybe that's just like the people
So
that I
with
work with.
sports and music, your first two, you know, warnings or dangers, uh, it seems like the a big part of it is they're overused topics, and but it so in addition to that, why does that hurt the student? Or maybe I should rephrase that and say, so what should they be writing about instead? Um,
If they're musicians,
sure, yeah, for example, yep.
yeah, if they're musicians, I would, and they actually, I think first step is deciding if music is something that's central to them. That's, part of their identity. A lot of the time that's going to separate wheat from chaff, right? Something they're like, no, I don't have anything interesting to say about it. Okay, pass. The rest of them, if they do consider it like a core part of their identity, we want to lean more into more nuanced aspects of music. Maybe it's composition, maybe it's unexpected influences, and kind of bringing that into an unusual place, right? Like some students might be more interested in jazz and they want to bring in an improvisational energy into, I don't know, maybe they also like rap music and then they combine those two and they make their own kinds of music. Maybe they're more interested in music production. If they are really interested in performance, when you are performing, you're just doing it, right? It's an active feeling. So sometimes there's not a lot to write about there, but we'd have to think about what aspects of music performance are interesting? Is it the connection with the audience? Is it being part of a musical tradition? We kind of find different directions to go in rather than just, I practiced, I showed up for my performance, I got first place. And it's an important part of my life because I've done it for 10 years.
Yeah. One of the first questions that, pops into students' heads when they look at these are, okay, what does the admissions reader want from me? What do they want to read? What's going to make them happy? Ooh, I never thought I'd get into jazz, but I heard this, record. It changed my life, and it was really surprising. What might something like that be revealing to an admissions reader that would help their application?
That's a good question. I think it mostly shows intellectual curiosity, right? It shows that your hobby extends outward rather than just being something that your parent asked you to do, or you did something because you were supposed to do, or you did something to have an activity for college applications. It shows when there's a genuine interest, those things can always translate academically because they're part of a student's intellectual curiosity, right? And then they're looking for students with diverse interests. That's what you bring to a conversation and you bring to a community at school.
I'm ready for number 3.
Okay. Number 3 is I would avoid. It's similar to 1 and 2 in the sense of the traditional narrative of creating a business to solve some kind of problem.
Okay.
Right. I think that that's a common response nowadays to seeing something that we want to change. And I think that's good. But I would say it's quite common now. So there needs to be something to change that up rather than the traditional process of like, okay, I want to start a nonprofit. I need to get a team together. We need to apply for like our status. We need to recruit and look for donors or grant. We need to look for capital and then we need to set it up. Like those are all kind of traditional. What's the word I'm looking for? That's a narrative that we are all very familiar with.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that doesn't actually end up showing that a student is super interested in business. Right? Business is very complicated and it's always changing. It's one of the most contemporary fields of study, right? You don't need to go to college to do business, but you need to show that you understand the market and what's going on now. So if a student is interested in business, they tend to write about kind of similar things because, maybe there's not that many things available to students. But I would like to hear in that case more about specific things about the business process, business creation process that they uniquely understand, right? Are they more interested in research and development? Are they more interested in product design? Are they more interested in user interface design, customer relations, account setup, go to market strategies, like building all of the online side and the e-storefront side? We could be more specific now.
Great.
Yeah.
So specifics, I would think that specifics in general are, or specifics in general, it's a little oxymoronic, but across all essays, and are great to include. It just makes for
Yeah.
better writing, and probably demonstrates that a student has a better understanding of whatever it is they're writing about if they can write in specifics rather than just generalities.
Yeah, specifics are really important. I would just say now I look for different specifics than I did maybe before, right? I don't want to hear a ton of specific exposition about what you did, who said what, right? I want to hear specifics that relate to expertise
Okay. Yeah.
or that relate to bigger ideas that you're thinking about.
Yeah. So let me ask this, since you brought up business, I mean, this would also apply for, music. Should a student who is declaring a, business administration major, is it, would it be a, how do I ask this? Would it be a bad idea for them to write about music, for example? Or how should you, is it important to target your topic, toward your intended field of study, would you say?
Yeah, so for certain things, especially for UCs, they have one essay that asks what intellectual or academic field are you passionate about? Like, what's an intellectual passion that you have? A lot of students will use that to kind of address their major and why they're interested in that career path. So there is that's set up for them. But I also think that when I'm reading a profile and when someone's reading a profile, before you get to the essays, you're already putting students into certain buckets based on their their family income, their school, right? Their school district, how well resourced they are, their academic profile, and then just reading through their extracurriculars list, anything with family that might come up. You're already having a sense of that person. So when that's the case, you want to try to do some subversion of expectation, right? If I read a student's profile and I'm like, this student is an academically decent, but mostly oriented around academics, or not academics, around sports. I'm like, this is an athlete, right? I'm putting him in the athlete bucket. That means I don't want to hear things that I would already expect from athletes. I'd actually want to hear some things that I wouldn't expect. I don't want to hear about in-game dynamics of sports, because that's all athletes kind of do that. I might want to hear more about, if they have interest in music, if they have interest in business, marketing, other things. Subverting expectations, I think, is important.
Yeah. I'm kind of hearing that surprise, or, in a way, or you said it even better, subverting expectations. Like if you're giving them something that they might not expect, or shows that you are a deeper thinker, experiencer than, just, all I want to do is business administration. That's all I care about. It just business. But showing that you've got more depth than that, maybe. Would
Yeah.
that be right?
Yeah, for sure. It's difficult for them. It's a complex task. You got to be nuanced, but you also have to be easy to understand and easy to, place. Right? Does this person fit into the community or not? But they need to be nuanced. They need to be curious.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
Great.
hard.
Yeah. Right. Well, good thing you're there to help them. All right, let's keep on trucking. Numbers of 4, or how about number 4? Are we on number 4?
We are. Okay, we're halfway through. So number
Great.
4,
We're doing great.
I have on my list, don't write about academic subjects, specifically biology or chemistry, if they are only limited to in-class learning.
Okay. Okay. Tell me why. Why don't I want to tell? I learned something great in class. I love my biology class. My teacher is awesome. I learned something really good. Why shouldn't I write about that?
Biology and chemistry are fascinating, and I think we all remember the first like bio class we took, maybe when we learned about genetics or maybe when we dissected something. It is meant to open up your world in that sense, but it is super common for students to say, my biology class is the first time that I felt like intellectually passionate about something, like super interested. And I guess, yeah, it's like similar to the first three, where it's just quite common for them to say, yeah, dissecting a frog, I felt like it was the first time I was interested in school, is basically kind of what you're
Hmm.
saying, like outside of just doing homework and attending school. That's actually not something students should emphasize.
Hmm. Yep, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
And then
Yeah,
if it doesn't extend beyond the classroom, that just means like you like this subject.
right.
And that's actually not a very convincing proposition for why you should pursue that, maybe as a career or on the next in the next phase of your life.
Right. Right.
Students
It doesn't
also,
really it doesn't really show exceptional intellectual curiosity, to use the term that you used before. You know, everybody's got to take biology in high school, and sure. So
yeah. So, like, when I talk to students, I'm glad that they have this experience. At least they're interested in something, but I just don't think that's going to cut it in terms of convincing somebody that that's a passion that they have.
mhm.
And students often also misread interest for something that they're good at, right? So, because I was really good at this subject, this is why I like it. That's not a good
Oh,
reason for that's not a good reason for why you should write about it. You're not going to have anything to say.
that's a very good point. Yes.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
applies to students a lot who are good at math, right? Just they're good at math, so it's their favorite subject.
Right.
But are we thinking about like, you know, multivariable calculus? Are we thinking about computational kinds of math? Are we
Hmm.
thinking about applied math? They don't actually really know like the different paths you can take with math a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So a
Hmm.
passion is a passion, something that you're passionate about. It's not just something that you like more than other subjects or
Yeah.
that you're naturally good at.
Yeah. Well, that brings up a question I have. Like, where does um I'm guessing it would be just kind of boring to hear somebody read about, yeah, I love math. It's cool. I'm really good at it, and just writing about that. What's the role of challenge, or when it comes to writing essays? Like, would it be more engaging for a student to write about a challenge that they've faced, or uh, overcoming a learning to love a subject that they weren't very adept at from the get go? Any thoughts on challenge?
Yeah, I think adding that element of they need to take a risk or it needs to cost them something,
Mm-hmm.
it makes the story more engaging. So whether that's they weren't good at that subject and then they worked at it and became good at it and then became passionate about it, that's definitely more interesting than having a natural aptitude and then deciding that that's your main interest. Or you gotta take a risk. It has to cost you something. Nothing is worth like your passion isn't a passion unless you sacrifice something for it. Whether that's your personal comfort, whether that's your time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's like reputation sounds odd, but right, if you're choosing to do this over spending time with your friends, right,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of a sacrifice, right? It needs to have some element of that to show that it really is something that you love.
Right. Yeah, because these schools aren't looking for students who are just gonna float through their college experience, and I mean, the whole point of college is to be open you up to new experiences, and to be challenging, and to question things that you believe. So if you can prove as a student that you already have experience doing that, in high school, that's going to probably show them that you're going to be a good student, a good addition to the student body. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like the UCs or liberal arts colleges where they expect students to come in basically undecided and they want you to have multiple majors and explore. UCs generally admit by major and department. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you are saying that you're interested in biology and you want to do pre-med, but you've only ever like studied bio in class and never had any other experience outside of that, you're going up against another student who's interested in bio but has that experience, right? And is more likely to succeed and matriculate in that program than you are. So, and that's a capped major. It's a popular major. So,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Let's have number 5, Cheny.
Okay, this is different. The last three are a little more different and kind of interpersonal focused, which
I
I
love it.
think let's mix it up.
Great.
Number 5 is pretty self-explanatory. I put don't write about boyfriends or girlfriends or even like close friend dynamics. Like just don't talk about your friend group, your friends, what you do with your friends, your friend drama, you know. And I say this fully understanding that these are the things that we remember about high school, right?
Yes.
This is so memorable, how we're treated and who our friends are. It can be all consuming. I have so many students who, like, their experience is shaped or defined by the friendships that they make. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely so important, but it's just, I would say, think about it as a job interview. You don't go to a job interview and talk about people you're dating, that kind of drama, your friend group, how much you love your friends. Generally, that's just going to hint to them that you are not thinking about the future, you are thinking about the present, and that, you're not ready for the challenge of secondary education, which is getting out of your comfort zone and doing totally new things and meeting new people.
Very good advice. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Let's since these last 3 are kind of related, let me ask you for number 6. What's your next
Number
mistake?
6 is going to be a little controversial.
Oh, okay. I love it. Love
Well, maybe
controversy.
as controversial as this kind of stuff gets.
Scandalize us. Come on.
I don't think students should write much about diagnoses for specific conditions like
Mm,
anxiety, ADHD, or depression. Not because those things aren't important and, they are so important, and not because they're not valid, but because they don't usually have anything to say about it that's that interesting at this age, right? Speaking as someone who has personally been diagnosed in this way, I think I have interesting things to say about it, but only because I'm in my 30s. And so, like, I have had a longer period to think about how it's affected me,
yeah.
right? Have insights about it. I just don't think at age 17 it will read well to audiences because it is a generalized condition and it affects their academics a lot of the time.
Yes. Yeah.
And a lot of the time it reads like privilege.
In what way?
I think that's the controversial.
Yeah. Like privilege as in, um, I have had the privilege of, I don't know, accessing medical care to be diagnosed with this and to, possibly take prescription medication and that sort of thing.
Yeah, the students who receive accommodations at school are the students who have parents that are vocal advocates for them and have
Ah,
been able to take them to see multiple guidance counselors, been able to have been interested in seeing a diagnosis from them and wanting to get them extra accommodations.
hmm.
There might be students that are similarly challenged but don't have those accommodations because their parents aren't as involved or interested. And a lot of times it gets it falls along like income based or resource based lines.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So the number of students I get who say that they have ADHD, like, I sympathize. What can you say about it, right? You're emphasizing that you struggle with a like neurological difference, but are they saying anything aside from like I just need to focus my attention or have strategies for that? Or is it something more nuanced?
Yep. Yeah. Great. Good.
Yeah. Same thing with like anxiety. I think, there's a book called The Anxious Generation. We're growing up in a time when everybody has a similar kind of social anxiety because of the internet. So,
Mm,
can they say something about that that's specific, that actually an admissions reader would want to know,
yeah.
right? Outside of what they assume everybody's dealing with at some level. Which leads me to the next part. There are other conditions that I think sometimes students should maybe write about or are easier to write about because they are less generalized. So conditions like bipolar disorder, autism, dyslexia, that Tourette's that really affect them physically, affect their classroom dynamics, and have to be diagnosed from a young age for a student to be able to function in school.
Hmm. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think those things are a lot of times a key part of a student's story rather
Right.
than something more generalized like anxiety, ADHD.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Would the one of the personal insight questions or an answer to a PIQ be a the right place for a student to um, provide context for, say a student, got had a semester of poor grades. Would a PIQ be the right place to explain, or say, here's what was going on in my life during that time, and this is why?
Yeah, I think the PIQ is definitely the place to do that. The other place would be in the additional comments if you want to explain like a dip in your grades or something like that. A lot of students use that space to talk about situations with family that occurred that might have impacted their performance or health situations, either health of their family or health of themselves, personal injuries. Those things are really good for schools to know. I think with conditions, mental health, or like autism, Tourette's, dyslexia, these are also important for them to know, but you do also have to convince them that you are right for college. So it's like thinking of it as a job interview. I wouldn't go to a job interview and like say that I have Tourette's without letting them know like, oh, you wouldn't be able to tell. But this is something that I'm dealing with, and because of that, it actually makes me a better performer.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
it has to
Yeah.
be something along those lines, I think.
That's great. That's great advice. All right. Are we on number 7?
We are on the last
The
one. This
last
one is
one.
very
Okay, let's
important.
bring it home. What do you got?
All right. The last thing I think students shouldn't write about is a troubled relationship with their family members that is based on specifically academic performance, study skills, or time management.
Okay. Okay. And why is this? Why is that the danger zone?
Well, so you can write about dynamics with your family. I actually think that's very important context for students talking about their background, their culture, and their heritage. But when it comes to you having an ongoing conflict with your family that is centered around academic performance, inadequate study skills, your time management, what you're telling schools is, first of all, that you are a teenager, because these are things that they associate with teenagers, having a guardian that needs to like, be your handler. And it's, that's a very expected thing. So it's not going to be interesting to write about. But it also just tells them that, that's another sign of privilege. If the worst thing going on in your family is that your parents think you haven't done enough homework or that you're not studying enough, it just shows that there's a lack of other problems.
Sure. Yes.
Right. So it's just not that interesting. There's other things about your family, your history, and your culture that you can emphasize more. But I do have students that they're just so, they have such an antagonistic relationship with their parents. And a lot of the time it's just like, you're not doing well enough in school. I just don't think that's an interesting thing for them to
Yeah.
write about. Yeah.
Well, and maybe it's just you're leaving money on the table. There are far more interesting and more deep things that you can be revealing about yourself and thinking about and stuff. So I think overall, like kind of what I'm getting is a lot of these careful with these topics, things that you're noting are just sort of failures to think beyond the obvious, or do real like self-examination, and to actually be, well, and maybe this is a different thing, but to actually be a little bit like vulnerable in the essay, or so are there techniques, and this might be another, half hour answer question, but w- w- how how can a student think beyond these things, think beyond the obvious? How do you coach students to getting to, the real good meaty stuff, to think about?
It's a difficult question because a lot of the time with this work, it requires you to meet students where they're at, right? You're not their parent. You're not there to push them to be somebody that you want them to be. It has to be something that they want for themselves. So if where they're at is just not interested in doing that self-reflection, it's
That's a good
limited
point.
in terms of what you can do with them.
Sure.
I try to, get the essays to be at least interesting, at least highlight their best qualities, and at least have some kind of insight in them. But when it comes to pushing them to be more nuanced, more intellectually curious, more engaged externally, there's a limit to what I can do. It's fall of their senior year usually. So what I do help to bring in sometimes is things for them to read, things for them to think about, course corrections, right? To let them know that if you write about how you've been diagnosed with this from a young age and how you've received accommodations for this, that it could read like this to somebody else.
Sure. Yeah.
And also, to challenge what it is that they say. There's a lot of gaps in the things that they say, right? So they're like, I'm passionate about biology. Why are you passionate about it? Show me. What have you done? What risks have you taken? And we got to do it in a short amount of time. But it sometimes works because this is the time when they're the most motivated. So
hmm
it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, my goal is just showing them there's always something that we can do. And like they've done all of the difficult work, which is doing the stuff,
Yes.
living the
Yeah.
life. So the stuff that we can do, a lot of times it's just thinking, being open, exploring, and then,
hmm
yeah, I guess wanting to go within,
Yep. Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
but also be strategic. Yeah.
Right. Right. Awesome. Thank you, Cheny. Those are wonderful, um, just observations based on a lot of reading of students, and a lot of coaching students on, their essays. Yeah. So, okay, I would love to wrap up with what I'm going to call the lightning round. So, okay,
Okay.
just just one word or one sentence. All of these could you could talk about and provide tons of context for. We're just trying to get things, people thinking about things. So really, really fast. So one word
Okay.
or one sentence answer. So your favorite PIQ prompt.
My favorite PIQ prompt. Um, which was my favorite? I don't like them much.
You don't like them. You don't. Well, okay. Do you have to like them to do well on them? Maybe that's a good question.
No, but I'm like, which one do I like?
Yeah. What's your favorite?
Maybe educational opportunity. I'm not sure why. Number
All
4.
right. Okay. Great. I'll take it. I'll take it. Uh, what is the biggest editing mistake you see students make?
Using AI, using AI
Oh.
words, AI sentence structure, syntax. It's very like clear when it is. They have a specific style that they write in, so I hate that.
Hmm.
And sometimes they're
Okay.
like, I didn't use AI, but I'm like, oh, so you just write like AI because you've read so much of it. That's actually worse.
Yes, but yeah, now we have to consider like de-AIing our syntax and our, yeah. It's this complicated new world that we all live in. Yes.
Yeah.
How many drafts should a student expect to write?
4 to 5, I want to say.
4 to 5. Great. Should parents edit their children's essays?
Definitely not. They're
Okay.
too close to the subject matter. They're too close, so they can't really see it objectively. I say parents are helpful when it comes to thinking of things that their students have done. Because students might not remember things that they've done. So parents can help with like suggesting, like, oh, remember when you did that?
Yep. Brainstorming topics, that sort of thing. That's great.
Yeah.
Any we talked about overused topics. What's an underrated essay topic?
Oh, okay. What's underrated? What do I think students should write about more?
Yeah.
Think about that. Reading,
Ah,
literacy.
okay. Yes. Yeah. That's great. I mean, just being a part of the academic conversation, I know that is, the students' writing ability and reading comprehension ability is one of the hottest topics right now. It's like, no, I'm sorry, a student don't come to university, knowing how to read and write like they should. So I can see how demonstrating that in an essay would be really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so if a student is listening to this or watching this podcast, let's say 6 weeks before the UC deadline, so sometime in October, what's the very first thing they should do after this episode ends?
And they haven't done anything?
They haven't done that. They haven't even looked at the PIQs yet. Yeah, they're
6 weeks before it's due and they haven't started anything. I would say you need to make a UC account and fill out all of the information first. There's going to be
start there.
information
Okay.
on it that takes a long time to fill out. Students oftentimes don't know how to do their transcript, or they have multiple transcripts. They don't know their family and like wealth, income information. They need their parents to sit with them to do that. FAFSA. There's actually a lot of administrative stuff that they oftentimes can't do alone. I think you should take care of that first and also get lists of your activities together. It's like assemble everything. The essays are mostly creative, so it's less administrative. You do have to do a lot of like revising, but they often forget that there's so much other administrative stuff that goes into it. Especially with UCs, you have to choose different majors by every UC because they all have different major programs. UCSD has 7 colleges that you need to rank. So there's just other stuff that's going to take time.
Right.
I would do that first, make sure they're familiar with the UC portal and the application before they work exclusively on essays.
Great. And I would imagine doing that and compiling all that information might inform your answers to these things as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
Cheny, what wonderful information. You're a genius rock star, essay coach, admissions professional. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jason.
Yes, thank you. This was really fun. And thanks for being our very first guest on Stand Out, the Elite Prep College Admissions Podcast. Thanks everybody for joining us. And we will see you next time.
Thank you.